What's up, man?
What's up, man? How are you?
Man, I'm doing well. Sorry, I set this phone up and then it didn't anticipate me being on the top half. I'm just going to scoot this back right here. Is that better?
You're so far away now.
Yeah. How far away do I look to you?
Oh, my gosh.
We got Daniel Matthews on here, Megan Bonsalar. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for being here.
Megan.
You know Megan?
I know, Megan. We were in small group together. What did you talk about, man?
That's right. I forgot about that.
Oh, jeez.
We're in that group.
The Bonslars.
I was in group with them and I was in group with you. This is what happens when you've been in so many small groups. You forget which ones are which.
Yes, they all start to come together. It's like a giant chain.
Yeah. Oh, Willie Baker's here. What's up, Willie B?
There's Willie.
Willie in the house. Jamaal, how's your day going, man?
It's a summer day for an educator, so I do a lot of nothing and a lot of something. So
I love you were telling me earlier about your kids' new eating habits and their growth spurt. Why don't you share that with the audience?
I would love it if my son would go back to his school stomach and not his summer break stomach.
Yeah.
Because, it's pretty impressive how much food he's putting away now. I don't know. Maybe he's going through a growth spurt. I'm not sure, but he's consumed a copious amount of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches this summer.
Yeah. You ate 2 sandwiches for lunch. And how old are your kids now? How old are the boys?
So my oldest is 6 and the youngest is 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my oldest is going
to PB&Js though.
Say again?
Which one ate the 2 peanut butter and jellies for lunch?
Oh, the 6-year-old. The 3-year-old is on a strict diet of milk, oatmeal, and chicken nuggets.
Right.
So to be clear, the oatmeal has to be store brand. It can't be Quaker.
That's good though.
Oh no. Say what?
You can save a little bit that way. That's
you can. Yeah, you can. I mean, the 3-year-olds are they're a little bit they show some terroristic behaviors.
They know what it's like, that's for sure.
Yes, they're very passionate about that too. Very passionate.
That's hilarious. Hey guys, well, we are going to get started in just a minute. So if you guys, just stumbled on this because you're interested in watching live videos when they go live, this is 2 Upstreet dads having a conversation about race and specifically racial reconciliation. So there may be some dad jokes here and there. I felt like we're 2 dads. We have to, have some of that in our conversation.
Has to be.
But if you know a dad, if you know an Upstreet dad, if you live with an Upstreet dad, feel free to invite them to watch this conversation or watch it later. We think that this is just one of those steps forward that we are going to take, and this is not going to be solved. This issue is not going to be solved in our conversation. I mean, Jamaal and I are awesome. We are not that awesome.
No, not at all.
But this is an important step. This is another conversation that having these conversations takes us forward. And so we're grateful that you guys are here watching with us. Jamaal, I'm super grateful for you, man, and for you being here, for being a huge part of my life. Just to give context for those of you that are watching that don't know us, my name's Alston. I'm the Upstreet director here at Gwinnett Church and have honestly served with you, Jamaal, since the beginning. I feel like you were the cross point back in the early days. I'll never forget when we said, you need to be a host because you are gifted at being on stage and being the energy and being fun for kids. And that's why I love that we're friends. I think that's why we connect. But you have been pivotal, especially with this topic in my life when, that small group that we mentioned, that I forget who is in that group, but that group was a pivotal moment for me when we went through the United study and just shaping my perspective of this issue. And it's interesting. And I think we talked about this as Gwinnett Church. It's interesting that, and it's a little sad that we have the Viewfinder series from 18 months ago are able to play the series a couple weeks ago, and the content more relevant than it even was before. But it's a similar conversation, and that's sad. But I think what you and I have talked about is it seems like there's something different this time. But
Yeah.
Before we dive into that, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about you and kind of your story and how we got here tonight?
Well, my name is Jamaal. I am a fifth grade educator here. I have been with a part of Gwinnett Church since, like Austin said, since the very, very early days. Someone asked me, Sarah, I remember, asked me, I can remember the moment very vividly. She pulled me out of like the large group room where we had all 5 grades in there. I was like, I really think that you should be our host, and I really want you to do it when we go to the new campus. And I was like, no. And here I've been doing it since we moved in.
Yep.
So it's one of those things that I've absolutely and thoroughly enjoyed, and I look forward to every Sunday. Like I said, I teach 5th grade. I'm 4 years in, going into year 5. Yeah, I think so. I've lost count, and I think it's year 4. I don't know. Whatever. Either way, it's been a while. And this year is very strange. I mean, we finished off last school year, the last 12 weeks, I think, at home. Yeah. And then we've been home since then. And so that's been a new, an interesting dynamic. And then, like Austin said, like, we've known each other for a very long time, and I've just appreciated, not only like both of us kind of like coming into this fatherhood thing around the same time, mm-hmm. but just being able to watch you grow professionally, but then, also just like as a man and understanding how that there are differences between cultures, and walking into that and not saying like, ooh, that's messy, I don't want to touch it. Mm-hmm. So I've appreciated that. My family and we've appreciated that a lot, because it means a lot when I think for all of us, when we start to recognize that the world is bigger than just us, and we should recognize difference and appreciate it and love it, and just to, welcome it. It helps us grow as people and grow closer, I think. So, yeah.
No, I agree, man. I love everything that you said. Daniel Matthews gave you a shout out. He said best host in the game. So that's
wow, Daniel, that's high praise. I mean, you're the one man I knew who could hit that high note in one of the songs during worship. So it's been pretty impressive. We missed that. I look forward to it, but I don't hear it anymore because now he's like all over Wombaland's Upstreet, but Instagram. So he's famous.
You know what I can't wait for, Jamaal, when we come back in the building and you do the first bowling of the year.
Oh my gosh!
Whenever that is, when you do the first strike back in the alley, that's when I'll know we're home.
If we can get, as long as we can get the producers to pull that up, we can get that in there.
They gotta get that sound effect.
Yeah, we gotta get that sound effect in there. Yes,
that's funny. Well, man, I really want this. My hope for this conversation is just that I could give you the platform and let you guide us. But just to give a little context for those that are watching, asking, hey, why are we even having this conversation in Gwinnett Upstreet? How does this relate to kids? Number one, this is everything. I mean, we want kids to follow Jesus, but for those of you that are parents watching this, our sole goal is to help you raise great kids. And if you don't realize that raising racially aware kids is part of that, then I'm glad you're here. But in raising great kids, we want to help you, just help them continue to take steps towards reconciliation as well. And so I'm super grateful that all of you guys are here. Like I said, I'm not perfect. The thing that I love about Jamaal and I's relationship is he has given me the freedom, because it is messy, the conversation. I am over analytical in everything that I say. And you just have given me that blanket of grace to say, hey, we got to at least say it, because then if we don't say it, then we don't move forward. We don't make progress. You said better earlier today. But I feel like for the dads that are out there, the dads that are watching, I don't know. I think this is something that's true of all dads, is that we're afraid to mess up. We're afraid to say the wrong thing. And so sometimes that makes us hesitant to say anything. And in the fear of making somebody upset, where other people, I won't say girls in general, that would be sexist, but I feel like we are more hesitant in speaking about things, but I don't know. Have you felt that that's true at all, or seen that perspective?
I have. I think part of it too is personality, in the sense that like it just depends on your wiring. If you're one who is not afraid to say what's on your mind versus one who's hesitant to say things that will ruffle feathers. And I think this is, and I'll say it, like I'm one of those people who is like, sometimes I'm very hesitant to say those things that will ruffle feathers, whatever the subject is, whatever the subject may be. But I feel like this one warrants itself to where you have to kind of like wade into it. And if you have people who want to talk to you, I think you have to just you got to be open. I mean, what have you got to lose outside of, if you, like you said, that just extending that grace, because I would, like I said earlier, I would much rather you make a mistake in trying than not try at all.
Yeah. Because
then it just seems like, oh, okay, well, you don't care.
Yeah.
And then I'm left to have all these ideas spinning in my head like, well, what do you really think?
Yeah.
So yeah, I really think that it's like you have to make that conscious effort to speak up and say something.
Yeah. Awesome. I noticed the basketball goal behind your head. It reminded me of the Michael Jordan quote when you said that you miss 100% of the shots you take, right?
Agreed.
Like it's the same thing with conversations like this. Even if the conversation's messy, you're not going to move anywhere if you don't have the conversation. And that's why the relationship is so important. But, man, we're already 12 minutes into this. I haven't even asked you a single question. I want to get to these.
Oh, my
so
gosh.
Good. I want to hear your thoughts on these. The first one is this, is that is in general, just how are you feeling right now? What's kind of your pulse as a dad, black dad right now?
Emotionally exhausted. And I will say from that perspective, that happened. I mean, you take it all the way back to when we first did that United study. I don't even, what'd you say, 18 months ago?
Yeah. Viewfinder was 18 months ago, but I feel like United was right even before that. So
yeah, it was right before that. And I think that was right around the time when it had to have been maybe, I don't know. It was maybe like 5 or 6 in a row, African-American men who were shot and killed. And I remember just feeling like, and I still have that question. It was like, what do I tell my son?
Yeah.
And, it still is the same. It's still that same feeling. So yeah, emotionally exhausted. But I'm thankful for the conversations that are happening now, for the, text messages and just like the things that are, I think that are kind of bubbling back up to the surface.
Yeah.
And are like staying there. I think that's given me a little bit of hope. And so I think that's what I think has happened now with coronavirus is that it's given everybody this opportunity to finally pause and stop, and they have to recognize what's happening and see what's happening. And, it gives everybody the opportunity to go, oh my gosh, like this is the world we're living in right now. And it hits people, I think, in a couple of different places, one being it's kind of like, oh, well, this is terrible. We need to talk about this, or this is happening, and kind of like, oh, well, and people brush it off.
Yeah.
Or this is happening. This is terrible, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think that was a long answer to your question. Emotionally exhausted, but I try to tread lightly in how much is shared with my boys.
Right.
Yeah, my wife and I, Renee, we have a lot of conversations about this. And I think that's the one thing that will kind of help keep us sane, is to talk about it and process through it.
Specifically together, the two of you? Or is
The
it?
two, yeah, I think specifically the two of us together, and then also talking with other, other parents, other people, other individuals.
Mhm.
Um, just because I think it's a conversation. It's an ongoing conversation that should not go away.
Yeah.
Um, in respect to like what shared with my boys,
Yeah.
like because of their age, I've had to, like, the 3-year-old, not so much.
Mhm.
But my 6-year-old, he is, he's out in the world.
Yeah.
Cause he's in public
Right.
school. And so he's going to hear different opinions. And
Yeah.
kindergarten, anybody who's worked with a kindergartner or anybody at that elementary age, like, they understand that kids just talk.
Uh-huh.
And if you just stand nearby and hear some of the stuff that they talk about, you're like, who's informing them? Where are they getting this? Like,
Yeah. That's good.
and some of them you're like, oh my gosh, you have some sense. And other ones you're like, oh my gosh, you have no sense.
Yeah.
And so it's I have to tread lightly with what we share with him, and I'm just trying to I've gotten to the point of just telling him, like, this is just mommy and daddy are dealing with some really stressful things right now.
Mhm.
And I don't want you to ask any questions because this is too high level.
Yeah.
And I just want you to just know that we love you and we care about you and we just want the best for you. And so when mommy and daddy are asking you to do, certain things, like if it's something as simple as like being a good listener, like I'm seeing, he's 6, I'm seeing, 10, 13, 15 years from now,
Yeah.
being a good listener means it's very different.
Right.
So it starts now, right, in a safe environment. So, yeah, that's kind of where that is, and that's where I am with that. And I have to tread lightly with parenting from that angle sometimes, because me as a father, like, I'll get frustrated because it's like, why are you not getting this? Like, I know you're smart and I know you understand what I'm asking you to do.
Yeah.
Like, I need you to really understand this.
Right.
And it can be really hard to just, like, I have to, like, back that off because he doesn't know what I know.
Right.
So I have to be very, very cautious with that.
Well, and it's so important too, because even when we think about things like faith, we know that there are foundations you can build. And specifically, we're talking to the kindergarten through 5th grade parent here. That you've got a 6-year-old. He's in 1st grade now, right?
Going to 1st grade, yeah.
Yeah, going to 1st. Yeah, if school ever comes back, who knows? I mean, maybe he's in 12th grade. Who knows? But
I don't know.
You've got a 1st grader. I've got an upcoming kindergartner. And that's the question that's on my mind as we get into this is, what is he ready for? And what do I have to kind of, taper as he grows in his phase? Because you're right. I think most parents, especially kindergarten, you underestimate how much they can actually understand. But then you also don't want to go to the other side where you overestimate how much they can understand. Just a quick example. We were talking to our son Beckett about heaven.
Mm-hmm.
You think he's ready to hear about this awesome place that heaven's going to be. And then the next thing you know, he's like, I don't want to go there. I'm not going to be with you guys anymore. Whose house am I going to live in? I don't know. And so you just get down that road fast. And so that especially with this conversation of racial reconciliation, is how do you have any ways that you guys together as parents have gauged how much your boys are ready for, or a good way that I could gauge what Beckett's ready for as he grows up and through elementary school?
Honestly, we try to wait to see what they say and what they've kind of like how they identify it. Like just recently, I think it probably was in maybe like the last year or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure my wife will correct me because her memory is way better. So, I know she's watching, so you'll see it pop up, y'all. But I think at one point one of the boys was talking about like the skin tone of like somebody either we had seen on TV or someone that they knew or like people that we know. And so we kind of like just we asked them questions like, what do you know about that? Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think about it? And then we just kind of, and then we like listened to them, and then we just kind of said to them, like, you know, this is what, you know, from a standpoint of like, God has created all of us to be amazing and be beautiful and be in this world together. And we, you know, everybody just looks, you know, people have different skin colors and they're all different. And it's beautiful because that's what God created us to be. Yeah. And that's the level at which, you know, we kind of keep it there. Like, you know, once they go into school, they're going to start to see that there are kids who all, you know, they look different and things of that nature. And if they ask questions, we're here. Yeah. I think just being open to them and allowing them to explore the world, and then kind of come back to you with like what they've seen. Mm-hmm. You can kind of help steer what, you know, who they, you know, what their not so much opinions, but like just their understanding of it, and then and they'll let them form their own opinions about it. Right. And, you know, we were talking about this, like, I think you as a parent have to lead that out for them so that they can see it. Right. You know, and if they see it, then your hope is that they repeat it. Yeah.
Yeah, because they become naturally curious versus you just spouting new facts at them.
Right.
They want, so that's your opportunity to leverage and go, hey, here's X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a really good gauge. And I think you actually have a really unique perspective because you're not just a dad, but you're an early childhood educator. You've been in 4 years. And so not only are you helping raise your kids in the next generation, you're helping raise a lot of people's kids in the next generation. And
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. I mean, your students' parents are watching, you know, they're like, but this was just a raw question that it's kind of been on my mind. And I know you and I processed this together, but it's like, it does seem like as each generation progresses, that there does seem to be progress. Obviously, not nearly as much progress as there needs to be, or we hope it will go one day. But in how I'm raising Beckett and how I'm raising my kids, the question was, how do we educate, or at what level, what extent do we educate our kids about the issues surrounding Black history so that they can make informed opinions about their future, rather than, you know, I think what I've seen a lot of lately is people that are upset with how the curriculum is laid out in the school system, and that even that can trend against racial reconciliation. So what are your thoughts there? I mean, that's a huge question, but just give me your thoughts. Unpack that.
Undo it all. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Totally kidding, folks.
Norcross principals watching.
Yeah, watch out. No, that's a great question. I think for my role as an educator is to inform my kids about as much as is relevant, the whole picture. Mm-hmm. So, and this is an ongoing process because I'm learning as we go. Yeah. And you know, it's if you don't know the history of the past, then you don't know like where we've come from, and then you don't know like what direction you need to be heading in. Mm-hmm. And then I think that's why you need the entire picture of history to kind of really to make an informed decision. I mean, we do that with anything. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't just go out and go get, you know, a home loan just from the first bank that you go to. You know what I'm saying? You go and you go to different ones and you compare them up, and you take all of the information and you say, okay, now I have an informed decision that I can make. Yeah. And it's the same thing. You know, I just recently, you know, myself, I wasn't taught growing up what Juneteenth meant and why that was so important. Mm-hmm. And so for me, this year, it was really different. I was like, oh, that's what Juneteenth means. And then I made the connection to me, to what is taught in 5th grade for my students. And I was like, oh, wow. So now this is something that I can add into my instruction as just like a little nugget so my kids know, like, history is bigger than what's just in these books.
Yeah.
It's even going to be more than what I teach you. And I try to encourage my kids to go out and like, I want you to, you have at your disposal way more than we ever had.
Yeah.
So I would much rather you go out, find out information, and come back with questions.
Yeah.
Please come back with questions, because if you come back with questions, that tells me that your brain is thinking and you're moving and you're trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And that allows you to inform your opinion about things. And I think the same goes for parents. Like, we've got to, if we learn more about different cultures and learn more about our history, it will help tremendously in just kind of bridging that gap between everyone.
Yeah. And I know that we didn't, we're not going to talk about the Confederate flag and all the things that are there, but I think what you and I talked about earlier, it reminds me of this. It's a lot of people are having the conversation, should the Confederate flag be illegal or should not? It's very binary.
Mm-hmm.
Missing is the actual reason the whole conversation is happening.
Yeah.
I think Sam Collier was the one that said it. He said a lot of times we waste time talking about this or that, when really we need to be talking about the reason that any of this is led up to this. And so to your point, if you don't know the history, you're not going to be able to make an informed opinion about, where you land on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like what you said, it's great to have that natural curiosity built into kids, but we can help spur that on. I love the story about how Jeff's dad gave him the biography of Martin Luther King and said, read this. He didn't tell him what to think. He gave him the biography and let him form his own opinions around that.
Right.
You and I talked about this earlier. We all would love it if our kids just believed everything we believed, agreed with everything we said. But that's not our job as parents. Our job is to help them form opinions. And so if we can encourage them and give them the right resources to help make those opinions for themselves, that's going to set them up for success.
Yeah.
But I know that's a long-winded answer to your question.
No.
Can you talk a little bit about the Dorito example that you told me about?
Oh, the Dorito of voting rights is something that just kind of popped into my head one day. I was thinking, because the kids were learning about, like I said, we were learning about the voting rights amendments and how it changed, the course of history and who was allowed to vote. And so you look at, before that, you had the 13th, 14th, and 15th amendments. Those were if you say, like, the Reconstruction amendments. So this was like, we're going to end slavery. We're going to make it so that you can be a citizen. And now we're going to say African Americans can vote. That's the top of the Dorito. Mm-hmm. The reason I chose the Dorito is because it's a triangle. And as you see, when you start to go through it, it widens the pool of the number of people who can vote. Yeah. So you start with 15, and that's the African Americans. You go to 19, that's women. So now that's two groups of marginalized people who've been able to vote now. Mm-hmm. Then you go down to 23, and you add in D.C. So now the District of Columbia can vote, and so can women, and so can African American men. 24 is you get rid of poll taxes, and 26 is you're lowering the voting age from 21 to 18. So you do all of that, and now you've got this whole new pool of people who can vote. Why that's relevant, I think it shows, like, at the very top of all of this, I told my kids in my classroom, like, who was in charge of all of this? It was white males who were in power.
Yeah.
Who were it took one to finally say, okay, we're gonna end this. Mm-hmm. Now, Juneteenth is relevant because it wasn't until like 2.5 years later.
Right.
So it was like, yeah, we're gonna say that you can get out, but there's a couple things we need you to do, or we're not gonna allow you to do. And it was. I think that's kind of that's where we got to the point where we were able to vote. But I say all that to say, like, the Dorito was, I think it helped my kids understand, again, where we came from and where we are now. Yeah. And here we are still fighting with some of the same issues around voting and all of that stuff. And we're not even going to go down that road.
Right.
Y'all can go choose whatever your news outlet is and go read that. That's not what we're doing.
We were talking about Kanye West earlier, but we'll save that.
Yeah, we'll save that for the next time. But yeah, it's been it was really, I think it was helpful for them. It was just a strategy that just popped into my head, but I think it helped a lot of the kids understand from a larger standpoint the ramifications of people in power and how you can change and how things can change.
Yeah.
And how moving forward, we have to understand where we were and where we need to go.
Yeah.
Going forward. So, yeah.
Well, for kids, they're so literal. And so sometimes they grow up, this is how it's always been. And then what your Dorito example allows them to do is to take a step into the past and go, no. We've gone such a long way to get where we are today. And then you get to go, and there's still such a long way to go. There's so many more Doritos to be eaten, which makes every kid excited.
Yeah,
and it's
clearly.
Right. And it's B0804 said food references always work in the class. So,
Yeah, my hope is that they realize, like, every time they have a bag of Doritos, somewhere in the back of their mind, they go, I learned something in school like this. I remember if it sticks that way, that's all that matters. Now, Alexandria, maybe we can get Austin to send you some Doritos.
She likes the sweet chili lime Doritos. I know.
Oh, she fancy.
She's got the bougie Doritos. But all right, so we're 30 minutes in. This conversation has flown by, but I love this last question because I think a lot of dads that are like me want you to tell me what to do and want you to tell me how I can help solve this problem. This gets me in all kinds of trouble in marriage because, wife can talk about then, and you go, well, why don't you do X, Y, Z? She's like, I didn't want you to help me solve it. I just wanted you to listen. But I'm wired as a problem solver. I've got to quit generalizing. So to get really practical, to get us here, I love in the Viewfinder series, the last week, Lee, Jeff, and Reggie had this framework of how to work towards racial reconciliation. The first step, listen to one another. Second step, believe one another. It's not just enough to listen, right? That's step one. You got to listen. But then you actually have to choose to believe that person's perspective is valid. That's step two. Step three is you befriend one another, which I love. Even the challenge that I felt in that concept of befriending, it's like, it's one thing to have a black friend or to know somebody that's black. It's another thing to say, I'm going to choose to do life with somebody that is black so that I can really understand where this is coming from. The fourth step, care for them. And then the fifth step is to stand up for them. You're not going to stand up for them if you don't care for them. So just to get really practical, you can give us an example for one of them. You can give us an example for all of them. But as a dad, what is something that we could do inside each of those buckets as we're trying to raise great kids?
As a dad, so I'm going to say for listen, and so for listen, I think it's really important for us to not to listen to fix, but just to listen and hear. I think I too am one who wants to, okay, let me go fix if my stomach hurts or, whatever, let me go try to fix it. I need to, solve it or whatever. Yeah. And a lot of times that's not what people need. I think just listening, especially in a time like this, it allows your friends, whomever they may be, black or brown, to feel heard. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And to understand, like, okay, this person genuinely cares about me for a change, because it feels what we see, and what we see is that the world doesn't care. Mm-hmm. And so when you as a person can sit down and say, okay, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to genuinely ask, like, how you're doing, and listen, I think that's huge. That allows that, like, kind of like defense guard to come down. Yeah. You think about any spouses can speak to this. It's really, I think one of the things I've heard that I've liked to use is, do you want me to fix it or do you want me to feel it? When fixing that's like some of our natural tendencies. Listening is just feeling.
Yeah,
just listen, just feel it. All right, that's it.
Renee said yes, so you know.
Yeah. 2, believe. Now I'm going to steal something that she said. My wife, who's a magnate in her own right. One of the things that she said is that you have to, when you're hearing someone and they're telling you what their truth is or what their life experience is, believe them. Like you have to understand, like, this is their experience. So even though you may not have seen it, or you weren't there, or you're just like, no, this couldn't have happened in my neighborhood, or this can't be happening in the world that I live in, believe them. Believe them. Because people, I think a lot of times people get so wrapped up in their own little bubble that they just don't want to see or know or believe that there is injustice that's out there. Because it's really easy. Oh, you see it on TV, it's really far away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if I was to tell you, like I told you earlier, that, we had a neighbor, we lived here for 3 years, and we had a neighbor who just, not mysteriously, just decided to put out his Confederate flag and then 3 days later take it down. Now I'm driving by with a major side eye. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, for real? Like, this is real?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's left me a lot of questions.
Right.
But believe me when I say that that's happened. Not to be like, no, people can't still be doing that. Yeah. So that's what I think in that is that belief. So just really understanding and really believing them. Befriending them, like, it's going to be weird. It's going to be messy. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to make mistakes. That's okay. Like, I think if you're willing to walk into it and to, like, really become friends with someone, then I think that really, it brings everyone's guard down and allows you to ask questions that you may not have asked, or learn about things that you may not have learned about before. And that's from both sides.
Yeah.
And I think that creates that unity that everybody is striving to get. And that's something then as a parent that you're modeling for your kids.
Yeah.
And that hopefully you're passing that on to the next generation.
Yeah.
To where then they look for, oh, okay, well, my dad or my mom had friends who were different than me. It's, it's cool. It's okay.
Yeah.
And they look for that. They yearn for that. They want that.
Yeah.
Let me see. What was number 4? Care for.
Yeah.
Care for them is simply, in the simplest form, like finding out, how you can be that, how can you be that person there for them? Celebrating them on their birthdays, or, checking on them periodically to find out, like, what's going on with work or life, or, challenging them to be better men.
Yeah.
Things like that. I think really being invested, just like you would do anybody else who's close to you.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It doesn't look any different.
Well, one of the things that, this was a game changer when you taught me this, but that caring for a Black friend can be as simple as when you see something in the news, rather than going, oh man, that's awful. Knowing that it's affecting your Black friends in a different way than it's affecting you, and having just the simplicity of texting them and saying, hey man, I saw this and I just want you to know that I'm really feeling for you today. I'm so sorry that this is happening. We got to do better. Like, when you taught me that, it opened my eyes to a different idea of what it looks like to be friends with somebody that's Black. Feel things when I saw those things on TV, but it helped me when you told me that, and it showed me what love looked like to you. And so just for the dads out there that are like, what's a simple thing you can do, is if you have a Black friend, text them when it comes on the news, you see it. Even if you did it randomly right now, I would say that would probably be something meaningful to them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the one thing you need to, yes, I think it would be meaningful. I think you have to continue to do it. It can't be, and not continue to do it like, not like everything, not everything you see on the news. You're just like, man, that's messed up. Not that, but like genuinely, like demonstrating that you, just like you would do for any of your other friends, if something, were to happen that you saw that you knew was affecting them, just genuinely caring for them and looking out for them and reaching out to them.
Huge.
Last one, stand up for. Stand up for is, I think, in that when you've gone through those first 4 steps of listening, believing, befriending, and care for, and you're standing up for them, I think you're letting your friends know that you're not going to sit back and allow what's been happening to happen anymore, or at least taking some type of recognizing that there's something wrong. Because silence is even worse. You sit there and you have to be willing to put something out on the table and say, like, okay, how much is my friendship really worth to this person?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And you have to say, like, you know what, I can't sit by and just allow this to happen anymore. I'm going to do something. Excuse me. Now, whatever that something may look like for you is up to you, but standing up for them and saying, like, this is not right. Like, I don't believe this, I want things to be right. I think that we should be, everyone should be treated equally. Everybody should be able to have the same kind of rights and be treated fairly. And I think that would mean the world to that person, to your friend, so that they know that, wow, they care.
Yeah.
They care, and you're willing to stand up for them. So I think that those are, that's kind of my take on those things.
Yeah.
With that.
Man, that's huge. Just bottom line of everything you said, and as I'm thinking about this as a dad, all 5 of those things take intentionality. And I love the quote on the wall that we just did with the For Gwinnett sign, is that you don't drift towards racial reconciliation. You have to move towards it. It takes. And so, man, I'm just grateful that you were willing to have this conversation tonight. Thank you for doing it.
Absolutely.
I don't want this to be the last of these conversations, because I think one of the things that we've learned together is that as we said earlier, it's not going to be solved today, but it will be, we will take a step closer in every conversation that we have. And so if you're a parent out there and you don't know what these next steps look like for you, just start with listening, start with introducing somebody into your life. And we have a ton of resources in our highlights on the Gwinnett Upstreet page of books that you can read your kids, different podcasts that you can listen to, because this is such a big topic. And Jamaal is incredible, one of the best guys that I know, but we will never be able to say it all in the span of 40 minutes. So, man, I love you. Would you mind praying for me?
I love you too.
And just, absolutely. Everything, our country, our nation, people to believe in Jesus.
I'll pray for us. I was going to be silly, but I'll pray.
I was like, we didn't have a dad joke. We gotta find a dad.
We didn't have one dad joke. Yes, we did.
Oh, no, I said it in the practice. I said this conversation is going to be a slam dunk because of your basketball goal behind you.
Oh, that's right. I hope I didn't miss the open layup. There it is. There's 2 for the price of 1.
That's right.
2 for the price of 1,
folks.
All right, look, I'll go ahead and close it out.
Thanks, man. I don't know if Jamaal is frozen or if I'm frozen. Hey, man, welcome back. I was going to pray for us. This is the ultimate dad joke. Pray and left. What was up with that?
I didn't touch anything. It was I said, thank you for the thunderstorm, and Jesus is like, nope.
I was closing my eyes. I was like, should I look? All right, man. Pray for us. We're out of here.
Let me pray fast.
All
Jesus, Lord. God, thank you so much for this opportunity, for Wi-Fi and internet connections, God, and for every ear and every heart that was on this call, on this live, God. We're so thankful. for them. I hope that some of these ideas and conversation that we were having tonight land deeply into the hearts and just get passed on to each generation that comes behind us, God, because we've got lots of work to do. But I think with you at the center and with open hearts and grace, God, we can get there. Lord, we love you and we thank you so much for your son, Jesus. And it's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother.
Wow. We made it.
What funny. What a great way to end. Just two dads having a conversation. See you, man.
Gosh. All right, man.
Buddy.
Have a good night.